In terms of winter 2021, there's no doubt in my mind about which anime people were watching. But aside from My Hero or Nagatoro, spring doesn't have that same big presence anime that we did in the winter. But that's not to say that the anime coming out this season are bad. In fact, I feel like the majority of the anime this season are becoming hidden gems. I can't help but shake the feeling that people are sleeping on anime like Super Cub, Higehiro, and of course, as the title of this video mentions, Odd Taxi. If you didn't know, Odd Taxi was the latest installment in the I swear I'm not a furry but anime genre. And just like its predecessors, it's yet another great show with anthropomorphic animals. And this anime really came out of nowhere. There weren't any big directors or writers working on this project, and when I saw the trailer during the Anime Awards, I kinda thought it was gonna go in the seasonal junk list. But boy was I wrong, and boy was I glad that I was wrong. Odd Taxi is a really simple story. It follows the daily life of taxi driver Odokawa and his customers. He's way closer with some of these customers than he is with the others, but at the end, he's the common thread that ties them all together. Also, let me take this moment to appreciate the fact that a taxi driver main character is the perfect way to world build. By including little tidbits of everyone's story, we're given a much wider perspective of the world than any other narrative could possibly achieve. We get to see everyone from wannabe influencers to actual celebs get in the taxi car and share the same type of moments with Odokawa. While watching the first episode of Odd Taxi, I couldn't help but feel like I was watching the anime version of the New York I Love You episode of Master of None. By including multiple running plot threads, Odd Taxi ended up feeling like a real-life city just in the first episode. And the main character ended up feeling like he was at the center of the city, even though he's just an average civilian. Speaking of it, let's talk about the main character, Odokawa. The TLDR of his character is that he's a middle-aged man going through some stuff. The long story starts with our introduction of him as a character. We first see him waking up from a nightmare of a body bag getting thrown in a river. Oh, did I not mention that this anime is like a dark thriller mystery? In just the first episode, we learn that appearances don't really match reality for this anime. And these tiny mood shifts in the first episode really help hook the viewer in a way better way than I could ever do in a YouTube video. So basically what I'm saying is, if you haven't watched the first episode, you should go watch it because it'll hook you better than I can. But then definitely come back to this video. The anime opens up with a seemingly unimportant radio news broadcast that the viewers might just altogether ignore. Definitely not just saying that to make myself better about ignoring it on the first time, but let's move on. The reports detail the kidnapping of a teenage girl who we later find out is actually a part of this giant web of characters. And about halfway through the first episode, it's revealed that the girl who went missing is in Odokawa's custody. Now, we never see the girl in Odokawa's house. We only hear him talking to another room where the girl is presumably held. In fact, all we have to know about this girl's presence in Odokawa's house is what Odokawa presumably tells her, that she's free to leave and she's there on her own terms and he's not holding her hostage. But then that can raise the question, is the girl even real? There are many theories circulating about Odokawa's mental health and how he isn't all there, and it wouldn't really surprise me if the girl that they're looking for isn't even in his custody. And keep in mind, we're hit with all of this like halfway through the first episode. And the story doesn't get any lighter from there. There's also stories of police corruption and gang violence and various other crimes that seem to pollute this cheery animal world. The lighthearted animals juxtaposed with the dark themes really makes this an interesting watch. But the character designs aren't the only things that keep this really dark story lighthearted. The story is told in such a way that it usually goes from a lighthearted arc about a college student wanting to become an influencer, or this funny scene right here, right into a heavy dark theme. And this style of storytelling helps lighten up the mood so much that I actually found myself forgetting about the kidnapping plot altogether in the early episodes. But also, these seemingly lighthearted scenes are pretty important. The first of these lighthearted stories followed Kabasawa, a college student desperately seeking internet fame. In attempts to get famous, he has Odokawa take a selfie with him and post it on Twitter. And two big things happen here. One of those things is that the background of the photo has the gang member who is suspected of having kidnapped the girl. And the second thing is that this points out to us that Kabasawa's Twitter is real in real life. And I'm being completely serious when I say that his real life Twitter is actually kind of important to the story. Back in July of 2020, an Odd Taxi staff member took to Twitter and made an account for Kabasawa. And this account is just so much of Kabasawa's character all concentrated into one place that I think that it might genuinely contain spoilers for the series. And this Twitter account got me thinking, what part do we, the audience, play in the story of Odd Taxi? And after spending at least an hour sifting through all these fake tweets by Kabasawa, I realized that our role as audience members is to be the detective. We kind of have to piece together all these running plot threads, and the Twitter account runs deeper than I imagined. Of course, there's the main viral tweet that everyone's seen, but after looking through them and clicking translate on every single one of those because I do not know Japanese, I found another tweet that Kabasawa made during the show. And if you scroll even further back, you can even see Kabasawa post about the trending mobile game at the time that we later see addict another character. This all indicates that something big might happen to him by the end of the show. And that's something big that's probably not gonna be good. And all this digging really helped me immerse myself in a way that no other story has ever done before. And this is the first mystery that has actually made me feel like I'm the detective piecing together all these individual narratives to make one larger picture. And the way that we witness the story slowly unfold in the show eerily feels like listening on to a court case, hearing everyone's alibis or their connections to the suspects. But audience interaction aside, Odd Taxi is just a damn good story. My one fear is that this story stretches itself too thin. It's only 13 episodes long and we already have this massive list of characters. But the 4th episode completely alleviated me of all of those fears. This episode was entirely dedicated to developing Tanaka as an upcoming villain, and he has one of the best villain origin stories in anime. He's addicted to a gacha game. I just love how this episode spent time meticulously crafting Tanaka as a villain, and also showing that his evil intentions towards Odokawa come from an extremely minor inconvenience that just so happens to mean the world to him. And giving this side character an entire episode to be flushed out and really make sense showed me that I have nothing to worry about with Odd Taxi. And my initial fears of some characters potentially being undercooked were completely blown away by the fact that if a character is going to be important, they're gonna have time in the spotlight to be important. I mean, we spent 15 minutes watching this kid trade erasers to understand why he wanted to kill Odokawa. And this show isn't subtle about how it critiques human society. Aside from the gacha-obsessed Tanaka, we also have the fame-hungry hippo that I previously mentioned, the love-hungry monkey who might be a little bit of a creep, the corrupt cop who is almost indistinguishable from the good cop, and so on and so forth. It seems as if each character was written to critique a certain type of person, and that the show was overall written to critique humanity as a whole. But despite those critiques on human society, Odd Taxi also shows us what's great about being humans. All the diversity from person to person is amplified by the fact that they're all animals. And we get to see a variety of people come in and out of Odokawa's taxi. Sure, Odd Taxi is a mystery thriller, but sometimes it seems like it's just a celebration of being human, which is kind of weird when you consider that they're all animals. So basically what I'm saying is, don't sleep on Odd Taxi.